Hey everyone, it's Gabrielle Temaat with the College Fix. I went to Arizona State University a few years ago, but over the last year I've done some extensive reporting on the school. I found that my tuition and your tax dollars have funded some crazy events. Today we're counting down the 5 most outlandish. Starting strong with number 5. 2 ASU faculty, an English professor and Humanities Institute director condemned what they call the white ownership of Shakespeare and the state's so-called manipulation of Black history. This happened at an event last September. Basically, they argued that white people have taken over the narrative of Shakespeare to exclude other races and view him through a lens of white superiority. Check this out.
There's a particular end and a particular purpose. It's appropriating Shakespeare to again perpetuate the idea of white exceptionalism and thus have the notion of white supremacy.
The English professor also said, quote, Shakespeare sits atop of that racial hierarchy. He's the epitome of what they consider white exceptionalism, and this is why he's valuable, unquote. Moving on to number 4 in our countdown. In December, a women and gender studies professor named Crystal Jackson condemned the anti-trafficking movement and the so-called deviant framing of sex workers in what she calls our violently gendered and violently racist social world. The event was called Queer X Faculty Flash Talks. Take a look.
At the turn of the 21st century and the turn of the 20th century, there were these moral panics about the white sex slavery trade, which is not happening, and both times are just, it's anti-immigrant, it's racist and transphobic forms of policing, particularly around women of color.
She also told attendees that she is a, quote, queer, bisexual, femme, white, formerly working class, Jewish, anti-Zionist scholar and activist, unquote. Quite the resume. Moving on to number 3 in our countdown. ASU hosted an event earlier this year titled Dismantling the Maternal Instinct. ASU professor Leela Rankin said, quote, the belief in a maternal instinct assumes parenting is something innate, automatic, and distinctly female, unquote. She called this a myth that enforces gendered caregiving roles and places unattainable expectations on women. Take a look at the footage.
This idea of this maternal instinct, it struck me as potentially problematic because it really places the primacy on biological mothers.
Moving on to number 2 in our list. Currently, ASU is hosting a queer visual resource center. It features sexually explicit artwork, it promotes transgenderism, and it offers free condoms to students. Take a look at these photos. This photo, which we've heavily blurred, shows 2 fully nude figures that are clearly queer, engaged in a sexual act for students to look at. The frame is wrapped in unrolled condoms, and underneath the frame is a bowl of more condoms for students to take. Another piece of art on display shows a headless torso with surgical scars across the chest. This refers to what they call gender-affirming care. There's white text around the torso that reads, quote, I shouldn't be fighting a battle to exist. Finally, topping the list at number 1 is an ASU event titled A Speculative Future for Reproductive Rights. I attended this event last year, and 2 professors discussed dismantling capitalism and electing a female president to restore so-called reproductive rights. They even warned of a dystopian future with cannibalism in forced breeding camps if pro-lifers continue to get their way and win elections. ASU English professor Jenny Irish told the audience, quote, so much of our reality points toward those futures, unquote. In other words, now that Donald Trump has defunded Planned Parenthood, we'll soon be eating each other and living in breeding camps. Now, much of this bias on campus may be attributed to the clear political and ideological leaning of the school's faculty. Recently, I analyzed Maricopa County voter rolls and found that only 3.5% of professors who are registered to vote at ASU are Republican, compared to the 50% of the general population. I found that Democrat professors at ASU outnumber Republicans by 15 to 1 in 12 departments. Now, as one-sided as that is, the reality at ASU is a little bit more complicated. We reached out to the university for comment on these events. A spokesperson told us, quote, "The university provides a platform for discussions that span the ideological spectrum from conservative to progressive. The hosting of an event on campus does not in any way imply university endorsement, but it does mean the university embraces free speech," unquote. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below, and stay tuned for more exclusive content. I'm Gabrielle Temaat with The College Fix. Thanks for watching.